Yeah, well, Adrian, my friend, we've had an opportunity now to spend the last few days out here in Browns Bay. In what is the district to this area?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're still in the Strathcona Regional District.
Strathcona.
Yep, but we're kind of halfway between Campbell River and Sayward.
Yeah, it is a very beautiful area, actually. It's the bay out here is phenomenal. The beach, had a chance to play with the kids down there.
Yeah.
Last couple days, and the one thing that I really liked is when you were down there showing Abby how to use the camera on the pier there. I thought that was really priceless.
Yeah, I was saying I'm letting her take a picture. So it's like, what do you want to take a picture of?
The campground is really nice too. Would have been nice to have a few more trees.
Yeah, that's about the only criticism I would have would
Yeah.
be a distinct lack of shade.
Yeah.
But other than that, very much enjoying it here. The scenery is breathtaking.
Oh, it is. And it's very quiet here at night too, I noticed.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
And it cools down quite comfortably, so that's been nice.
No, oh, is that what you are? Is that what's on your face? You were drawing on your face?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Come on, let's go.
Try to wipe away the
Come here.
evidence.
Come on, follow me. Let's get your face washed. Isn't that nice? There.
Well, Papa needs
Yeah, well, we came here for the reason of camping out, spending time, family, friends, and you guys are family. I have the privilege of you guys raising Chelsea's little girls, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job, by the way, on that, and I'm really pleased on how well those girls, they're very well behaved, and they're typical little girls, but, they could have been, I don't know what my scenario, I don't know what would have unfolded in my situation if I would have been able to. If I would have had to come off the road, I would have if there would been nobody else.
Yep.
But if another scenario came up, they could have been raised by, unbelievers. I probably wouldn't have allowed that, but it's been a blessing that.
Well, the sad state with the foster care system is the first thing, and this is one reason why Chris and I kind of stepped up to do this, is the one of the first things that'll happen in that scenario is siblings will almost never stay together.
Yeah.
They'll be separated and adopted out to separate homes.
Yeah.
And it was very important to us that the two of them have the opportunity to grow up and be sisters. And also in the fact that we were as connected to your family as we were, that we wanted to make sure that access to the family would readily be there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I think that's one of the main reason why we're doing this video right now. We wanted to share our testimony as friends and how God brought us together for the big outcome of what he has now, so fortunately planned in yours and Kristen's life, of raising those little girls, after a terrible tragedy with Chelsea. And this is the main reason why this testimony is so important. It just goes to show how far back God went.
Yeah.
To reach us, to bring us together as friends.
You can look back to see pieces of the puzzle falling into place back at a time when I certainly wasn't a believer of any kind.
No.
You were not walking a particularly godly walk yourself.
You were playing music in a strip club.
Oh yeah, well, I was a DJ in a strip bar
That's
for a number of years, yeah, among other things. But
what was the place called? I love how you expressed the title of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it was called. What was it called? the Cobalt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I always, because this place was a complete dump.
It was a dive.
Awful. There were rats.
I went there one
rats
time to
there
meet
were
up with
more
you.
rats and cockroaches than there were
Yeah.
customers in there. But so that part of my joke was every time I'd get on the microphone, I always came in
Yeah.
and announced it as "Welcome to the fabulous Club Cobalt." Yeah.
He probably had the guys at the desk or whatever it is they do for, and they sit at a bar and I guess the girls do their dancing.
The bartender
They're
is
probably looking over like, where is he from?
The bartender enjoyed it. I don't know if the owner did, but
Woo, that's funny. Yeah, I have to excuse my voice. It's a little shot.
yeah.
We did a lot of talking in the last few days.
But anyways, no, what I was just saying is that you can see the pieces of the puzzle
Yeah.
fall back at a time when neither one of us were particularly walking in any faith. I certainly wasn't. I was not a believer of any kind. And
I was a believer,
that
but
we
I really
were-
wasn't practicing it
No.
as I should.
Yeah.
I was still a Catholic at that time.
Yeah. Well, and my family is it is a Roman Catholic family, but I'm not aware really of anybody that's practicing in my family. Nobody.
Yeah.
So yeah, very disconnected there. But not only that it was in that kind of a state, but also that the things that brought us together were also not particularly godly. Just not that they were ungodly per se, but going to broadcasting school and then doing an 80s music show and
Yeah.
all of these things that, despite the fact that there wasn't a close walking relationship with God, he
Yeah.
was still with us because I think he was lining it all
Yeah.
up for what was to come.
We met in 1992.
Yep.
We both enrolled in broadcasting school, which was funny. There's so much to laugh about that situation. 1992 we meet where I guess there was only one class and we were in it together
Yeah.
for that semester. And I don't know how many people were in the class. I think there must have been about 25 people in the class.
Yeah, I would say somewhere around there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And we were the oddballs of the classroom. We were definitely. And I think 2 or 3 classes went by where basic instruction. And then, of course, the one day came where we made history in that school.
It all kind of started. You brought it. I actually forgot this, but you brought it up just when we were talking before. It was John Buchanan who gave us the first assignment. So they had 2 booths in the school.
Yeah.
And we hadn't connected at this point. We were just happened to be assigned into the 2 booths at the same time. So I'm in one, you're in the other. You were in the stereo booth. I was in the mono booth.
We just
and
happened to book these booths at the same time.
Yeah, and we were both doing our thing, and I don't even know exactly how it started.
I think we were both in our separate booths. We were doing our thing,
Yeah.
and we were like,
kind of looking at each other, and we could
Click.
see there was like an ability to open communication.
yeah, to
between
link the
2
booths together.
Yeah. So we did,
Yeah.
and we just
It's like,
started
hey,
talking.
How you doing there? Good. You want to do this together? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Let's
I
go
can't
for it.
remember exactly what happened.
Yeah, it was something like that, but it really started as happenstance
Yeah.
in a way. But very quickly, we saw that there was a real on-air chemistry between us. We really bounced off each other really well, and
It was scary, the instant chemistry we had.
yeah.
And
I think a lot of the other students even recognized that because we became very popular with the other students very quickly. Not so popular with the teachers because we very often didn't really follow the rule book.
I don't think Jerry O'Day liked us very much. He was one of the instructors, and
I think the other ones liked us, but it's like you're not doing it properly. But they thought we were entertaining. But Jerry O'Day, for whatever reason, he
I think maybe he thought we were cocky, right? And like, look at these 2 hot shots or
arrogant,
whatever.
not taking it seriously.
But how we were having fun. We were enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
And that one moment there, we were playing. We linked the booths together. We were playing Led Zeppelin backwards and and everything, and cutting songs off in the middle of it.
Vinyl,
and then
vinyl,
Jerry.
still vinyl in those
Yeah,
days.
that's
we were
right.
playing LPs.
That's right. And Jerry O'Day comes up to the window and.
Yeah, just to hear that tuk, 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 and see the cut off the air.
Hi.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Yeah.
But I know for a fact because I had a number of students like in the video class because the building was 2 or 3 floors, and when you would go in for your booth time, they had an in-house radio station. So
Yeah.
everything you did in the booth was broadcast throughout the building. And that there were people that came in, even on their days off, when they were not scheduled to be there doing classes of any kind. They would see we were scheduled to be on the air, on the in-house station, and they would come into school just to hear us on the air.
We would even book time early before the class even started.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. We were serious about it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's make a big thing out of this.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was given a privilege of voicing one of the school commercials. Did you know that?
No.
But yeah, they did a commercial for the school,
Right.
and they asked me if I would voice it. So they had me go down to the studio downstairs, the big studio mic, and I voiced it.
Yeah.
And then it ended up on TV. I never got a nickel for it.
No, but you've always had a very natural, real radio voice.
Not now.
Well,
I think I got a little bit of laryngitis.
yeah, something going on. But no, you always have. I mean, much more than me.
No, but our voices go well together.
They did, and that was part of that chemistry, is that our two voices themselves actually complement each other.
I mean, you
well.
have a good voice too. You just don't think it, but you do. But they do complement each other.
Yeah,
for sure. And so anyway, so the entire year went by. I mean, I guess you graduated. I graduated. I got a job with CHWK in Chilliwack, and I ended up moving my entire family to Chilliwack. And then I found out that it was every Sunday between 7 and 1. That was for the big move, right?
Yeah.
Sundays. Ooh. But I thought it was going to build up to something better than that. But during that move, we lost contact.
Yeah, well, I was actually volunteering at Co-op Radio in Vancouver. And
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. We did some of that, too.
Yeah, no, I was volunteering at Co-op Radio in Vancouver, and I was volunteering for Shaw Cable on their community television channel.
Right.
So I was doing some camera work there, but I was mostly audio mixing. Predominantly audio. But through me being at Co-op Radio, we actually had the opportunity. One of the things we did is we had the opportunity to do a late night show on Co-op.
That was during that year of our, of schooling.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember if that was before or during your time at CHW.
No, it was right during the time we were going to school.
Yeah.
I remember. Because
And,
we were high. We were on a high. We were broadcast students.
Yeah.
Let's go have some fun. And we had just as much fun on Co-op.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah, it was Transfusion Overnight. Playing fusion jazz.
Jazz and
Graveyard Shift.
Like stuff like Pat Metheny and
And I think that
Spyro
one really complimented us well, because neither one of us really liked... Radio can be quite stifling. You're very limited in scripts and what you can say and what you can't say. Co-op radio was pretty free and open. As long as you weren't breaking any laws or anything, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted. And that allowed us to really have some more fun and stuff.
Yeah, but they didn't want us playing regular mainstream top 40 music.
Yeah.
It had to be music that you just don't hear everywhere else. And that's why we went with the fusion and the like I said, Pat Metheny, Spyro Gyra, Michael Schindel, really nice, almost like a smooth jazz, but effective.
I remember I found a bunch of CDs at a thrift store, and it was one particular company, but everything on there was this jazz and fusion jazz.
We were looking for a lot of CDs. Remember that?
Spendel and all these.
Yeah, Splendel.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
we did that a lot, didn't we? I know of a really good secondhand store or a place. Oh, let's go, and we'd be looking for music for our next show.
So here we are, bringing all our own music to the radio station.
Yeah, because they just had LPs there, and I don't think there was too many of them we liked.
Well, there's only so many times you can play Doucette.
Yeah. That was really good experience too, getting on the mic. Like doing it in the school was one thing, but now we're on the air all around the Lower Mainland. We're getting phone calls. We're getting people that are requesting stuff. And, one day you got hungry and you decided to order a pizza. On the air.
Come on. It was both of us.
On
really.
the air.
No, and we're going to do live ordering of pizza. We found out that the pizza place wouldn't deliver to where we were. So
Pigeon Park was a nice place.
Yeah. So that phone call got followed by a phone call to the taxi company to see if we could get a cab to bring it to us, which we finally did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are fun days.
All on air.
Yeah. And when we moved to Chilliwack, and this was a big thing, I thought, hey, you know what, I just got to show what I can do, and maybe I can get on afternoons or something. But it was only Sunday, and it wasn't paying anything. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why did I move all the way out here? This is just not working out. So, I mean, it's not that I bombed or anything. I had a great time on the air. It was fun, but it was one day a week. It was just nothing. Yeah. And the program director, he was so controlling. I couldn't say anything I wanted to. It all had to be scripted by him.
That's very common in a lot of stations. Yeah.
Single time, Monday morning would roll around, he'd have a little tape deck in his office, and he would be able to listen to my air check on everything. Every time the mic turned on, the audio would record. And he's like, well, you did a good job, but you're getting too personal on this. Because I had to do this. There was a little thing called... you would announce that pets are lost and found, right? And there was a cat that was found in a mall, right? In Chilliwack Mall, Cottonwood Mall. So I'm on there, I'm going, this little cat was found in Cottonwood Mall. To claim you're a happy shopper, call blah, 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 blah. I thought it was cute. He thought it was stupid. And I'm like, okay, this guy's got no creativity at all. I thought it was cute. As for me, I decided to move back to the Lower Mainland and just did security work for a while. And then ended up moving out to Abbotsford and got into computers. And when I got my first computer in 2000, I think it was, I discovered Cool Edit. This is editing software where you can do anything. I'm like, I just discovered a gold mine, because I used to do this stuff with reel-to-reel. Tape splicing. Yep. Now I can do this all on a computer. And everything changed.
You were doing that stuff all the way back to when you were like 12 years old or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we moved to Surrey. I became a security guard there. I went to security guard school. I don't know why, but I guess you had to do that to get the license. And I did that for a while, and then once I was finished with that, I moved to Abbotsford because my parents were out there. I was having some marital problems. My dad said, you know what, move to Abbotsford. The whole family will be together. It will be a good thing. Well, I guess it was a good thing for a little while, and then the wife decided it was time for her to move on with somebody else and left me with the 3 kids. And so now I'm a single father of 3. I get my own place. I'm like, okay, I can't just go get a job and support these kids because the daycare was horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, you could go work a full-time job, 40 hours a week, and you guaranteed 60% of that almost is going to daycare. Like, unbelievable. So I thought, I got to find something to do at home. As I was saying, I discovered the computer, Cool Edit, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I get a microphone, now I can do some radio imaging. And I started doing radio imaging, which is commercials and PSAs for radio stations and jingles.
For service in English, press 1.
Yeah, something like that. And I was using actually a headset mic, for computers.
Yeah.
That's what I started with, which is real funny.
Yeah.
And then once I got some money that started rolling in, I decided to upgrade my equipment. Now I got a mixer. Now I got a really good mic. And now I'm thinking, oh, man, I would love just to put together a syndicated radio show. I wonder if I could pull that off. So I come up with this idea of Wild's 80s Retro. And I decided to do this is crazy, 4-hour show. Like, this is a full shift, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay, you're really hungry to get on the radio. So I did this, and I did this for like 2 years, and the shows were good. But then I thought, it would be really nice to have somebody to do this with, and you're pretty well the only person I could think of. And I'm like, how do I get a hold of Scott? How do I get a hold of this guy?
It had been a number of years at that point since we'd seen each other.
Yeah, and I'm like, the chances of running into him or whatever is going to be next to nil, but I got to try. And then I remembered your dad, Larry LeCouillier, and I'm like, okay, so I'm looking up on the computer, trying to find Yellow Pages. Now, how do you spell that last name again? I couldn't figure out how to spell your last name, but I did
you
find
and a lot
it.
of people.
But I remembered it. You said he lived in the North Shore.
Yeah.
So I looked up North Shore, LEC, whatever, and finally it popped up, and I found him. And then I remember calling him. I says, yeah, are you Scott's dad? Yeah. And you worked at Co-op Radio or went to Columbia Academy and Co-op Radio? Oh, yeah. I got to get a hold of him. So, anyway, it's a very interesting story. Why don't you share that?
No, it's extremely interesting. So I guess you have to back up a bit to point out that my dad and my mom separated when I was 4 years old, and I was raised by my mother. So I never saw my dad for years and years, the whole time I was growing up. In fact, I didn't see him again until, around 19, 20 years old. Basically, he gets in touch with me. He'd like to meet. We get together just as friends, have coffee. We start hanging out a little bit, trying to build a bit of a relationship. He decides to enroll himself just on his own, initiative to go to Columbia Academy. I see him going to Columbia Academy, and it piques my interest to do the same thing. So this is all happening in a fairly short period of time. I go to Columbia Academy. This is where I meet you, because I've just recently reconnected with him. Now, we fast forward to all this time, and had I not had that sort of reunion with him, you could have looked him up all you want, and he wouldn't have known where I was or how to get in touch with me. But now, because of the way things all fell into place, and I can get in touch with him. And so he did get you through to me. And
none of this was a coincidence. We knew God was behind this the whole time.
I didn't see it at the time, but
No.
I look back on it in hindsight, and I totally see him at work in all of this. Because in the next part of this that was so cool, and I mean, it's just, to me, such strong evidence of God's involvement and having his hand directly on the situation, is you asked me, I said, hey, would you be interested in getting together and doing a show together? And I'm like, well, I'd love to, but I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Well, I'm still in North Vancouver. You're way out in Abbotsford. And it's like, how are we going to make that work?
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm not sure what we'll do. At that time, I'm in the process of immigrating my wife who's from the U.S. So we're just finalizing her immigration, and she's moving up to Canada. And where we're at, because she's coming with 2 kids and a cat, we couldn't stay there, so we had to move. Well, isn't it fortuitous that you just happened to ask me if I'd be interested in doing a show, and you're out in Abbotsford? So I suggest to her, hey, what if we move to Abbotsford? Then I could actually hook up with Ray.
Because the place that you were in at the time would have been too small.
Yeah, it was too small, yeah. And so she was all on board with that, so we moved out to Abbotsford, and we hooked up, and I guess Wild's 80s Retro, we started doing it together, rebranded it as 80s Meltdown.
I don't even think we did an episode with Wild's 80s
No,
Retro.
not with that name. It was
we
immediately.
just said, okay, time to retire that.
Yep.
And let's go with what you came up with, 80s Meltdown. And we were very raw on that show.
Oh, yeah.
We got
still not a lot of godliness.
No, not at all. There's some things I'm a little ashamed of, but they're very funny.
Okay, so here's one that's on the more innocent side, which has always stood out to me as a real classic. We are playing the song by the Cutting Crew, I've Been in Love Before, right? And so the song is fading out, and you come in to do the outro, and that's the Cutting Crew with I've Been in Love Before. I immediately jump in. This is not planned, it's not scripted, it popped into my head on an instant moment. Right, so this is the Cutting Crew, I've been in love before, and I jump in and saying, and I've got the restraining order to prove it. No, really, it was love. Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that we did.
Yeah, a lot of our stuff was ad-libbed.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got the restraining order. I forgot about that one. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, no, we had that show on a lot of internet stations. We didn't really have it on any terrestrial stations. While it was, or did we have one? We might have had the few.
We had a few.
Had a few of them.
Yeah.
I remember a couple episodes, and I don't dare repeat it now, on some things that we said on that show, and we had to make apologies. But I think a couple times it was pretty. It was pretty funny. But after a while, I think we did 80s Meltdown for 2 or 3 years.
It was a few years, yeah.
Yeah, and then we decided, we wanted to change the name of the show because Meltdown was a bit of a negative. So came up with Back to the 80s. And
make it a little less adult-oriented. Yeah, make it a little more family-friendly.
And we made it much more professional.
Yeah.
I think
Really
that-
polished it.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the 80s Meltdown thing was a breaking-in period for us.
It was, yeah.
To sow our wild oats and get everything out into
so.
the open.
I think
and
so.
then the professionalism kicked in, right? Once we realized that, you know, we really had some chemistry. It was really a good show.
Well, by the time we were swapping over to back to the 80s, we actually had a pretty good assortment of internet stations that were carrying us. We had, I don't remember what it was, but it was several dozen terrestrial stations in places like Australia and
The Armed Forces
England.
Radio Network.
We had, the Canadian Forces Network broadcasting through most of Europe.
That
So
was really cool.
It's like, okay, we need to really make this a little more pro. Let's polish it up. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great show because the one thing about the show that really stood out is that we did our top 10 countdown in the first half, and which was a 2-hour show, and then the second half we would just play good music. We would play requests, but we would always try to dig up those ones where you just haven't heard in a long time. And I know both of us, we would dig this stuff up, and I get this call, Ray, you know, check this song out. When's the last time you heard this? I'm like, holy smoke!
Yeah. Oh, you gotta get that one in.
Yeah. Can you get it? Can you get it at 320? I got it at 128. We'll manipulate it. It'll sound good.
But then because we had created a segment in the show that Inside the Vault, featuring the Vault Dweller, and it almost was a little bit of a competition of both of us trying to come up with the best Vault Dweller that we could
Didn't we
find.
alternate weeks? 1 week I did one.
Yeah.
The next, and we were competing.
Always trying to find that song where the other person would be like, "Oh man,
We
I
stumped
haven't
them,
heard that
right?
since 1984."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun.
Yep.
So, and we had great equipment. The show just sounded phenomenal. I mean, to this day, I have not heard, unless, you know, you could hear a studio out there. I mean, a lot of those big studio boards in the radio stations, they have the beautiful built-in processing. They sound so sweet.
Yeah.
We got this out of, well, we spent $75 and got the same sound, right? And we're not going to say what it is because it's our little secret.
It's an insider secret.
Yeah, we don't tell
it's kind of like I'd say with some spit and duct tape. We put a setup together to do our recording.
With this little device hooked up, the mic sounded incredible, and we used to get compliments like, "How do you get that kind of sound?" And all the time we had that, and it was something we were very
for $500,000. We'll tell you.
Yeah, but during the times we were doing those syndicated shows, we were approached by a gentleman, and I don't think we ever did. Our show never made it to CKNS. Was it Cambridge? No, it wasn't Cambridge.
No.
Anyway,
this little town
it was in
Ontario. Yeah.
Can't remember now. But CKNS anyway. I don't think we had the show on there, but we were approached by their program director that, hey, you know, can you guys we have this fair coming. Oh, actually, no. He wanted us to do Saturday nights, remember?
Yeah. Yep.
So we did.
No, he had heard our syndicated show.
Yeah.
Liked what we were doing, didn't want to take the syndicated show.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'd love to have those guys on this station.
To play our music.
Yeah.
He wanted us to play their music.
So, we got the invitation to do this live show.
Via satellite.
Via satellite, yeah. And to me, to this day, it seems surreal that they were having some community fair or carnival or something.
That was one of the weekends. They were having a fair.
I mean, there was a lot of shows we did, but this one stands out. So we were doing this community fair or carnival, and
we were on location at the fair.
Yeah,
even
it was
though
being touted as we were
1,500 miles
live
away.
on location at this carnival. Yet here we are, 3,500 kilometers away on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Broadcasting, which is kind of funny because I had flashbacks to back in the 80s. There was a show I used to watch via Much Music, which was Good Rockin' Tonight.
Yeah,
Terry David Mulligan. And they would simulcast it onto the local radio station. So you could put the video channel on Much Music,
turn up the stereo,
and then simulcast it on your stereo.
Yeah.
And it was like, here we are doing something very similar.
Yeah, it was funny. And I wonder how many people that were at that fair that were looking for that booth. Where are those guys?
Where are those guys? I want to say hi to them.
But you know what's amazing? The thing that was so unique, I think we did we do like 6 different episodes, 6 weeks? And how long was each one? Were they like 4 hours?
They were 3 or 4 hours,
Yeah, they were long.
Yeah.
Did we do like 4 to 6 weeks?
I think it was something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We still have that stuff.
And all of those were completely ad-libbed.
Yeah. Every one of them were ad-libbed. And the thing is, I have to agree that that is probably some of the best stuff we've ever done together. Because when we were doing the 80s show, we would make mistakes. You know, we did our editing, but this was live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this was live.
You know, we were all in on this.
No
and
tape
it's like,
delay.
no, you can't afford to make any mistakes. And the thing is, every single one of those shows went so smooth. Afterwards, we would go listen to it, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
How on earth? That's almost impossible to do that.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it just once and then mess up the next week. We did this consistently. Every single week we did that show. And it was just because of the chemistry we had. And when that on-air light came on and we knew we were live, it was not an option to mess up.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we both connected. Like, we could have really been really good on the mic together, but we both had that professionalism where, you know, if I ran out of something to say, you'd come up with something. Or if you ran out of something, I would bring something up. We just did it so well together.
It was seamless.
Yeah, and I would have to admit that's probably some of the best stuff we ever did together.
Yep.
Yeah. But, you know, the music, the 80s music and everything was good. I mean, it was fun, but it really wasn't something we wanted to continue. Well, at least I felt on my heart, because I was trying to draw closer to God. I was drifting away from God for a while, and then I got involved with talking with my sister in a Christian chat room, started reading my Bible again, and then I just felt this tug on my heart that, you know what, you got to get away from the secular music. And I'll tell you something, that was hard.
Yeah.
Because we invested so much time and money, and just, we had a good thing going, and I'm like...
That's some great memories to doing it, you know?
Yeah, and it was like... I just felt in my heart it was time to change this to Christian music, and I'm thinking, oh, I got to tell Scott this. He's not going to want to do this. And then I can't remember if I said it to you on the phone or if you came in one time and we sat down. Hey, thinking about...
No, it was in person.
Thinking about doing this. What do you think? Okay. As long as there's a microphone in front of him, you didn't care.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like I was opposed to Christianity or anything. I didn't, hate the idea. I just had never been raised with it. It wasn't anything I ever really considered.
Yeah.
And when you brought up the idea, I mean, I'm thinking of it from the standpoint of, well, music's music. I enjoy doing the show. We really connect well. It's a lot of fun. And who cares what kind of music we're playing, right?
Yeah.
So I agreed to do it. And actually, so this is a big transition point for me, because there were two things that happened. First off was making the transition to, I don't know if we mentioned it, but the name of the show was Power Praise Radio. Making the transition to Power Praise. And there was also an evening we were sitting there, just on our own recreational time, and you had, I think it was an Xbox of some kind, and you had the NHL game. And we would kick back and just pick up our controllers, and we'd play a hockey game once in a while.
Yeah.
And I, at the point, had, as much as I didn't have a real faith background, I certainly wasn't afraid of using the name Jesus Christ. It was just in all the wrong ways.
Yeah.
And so here I am blurting out explicatives and whatnot, and you were like, oh, I wish you wouldn't do that.
It's like nails down a chalkboard.
I know. And it's you made some comment.
I think it was nails down a chalkboard or something. Or
no, you really made, it was a comment very close to, it's like, you're so close to being a Christian already. It's like you're doing a lot of what a Christian would do. You're just not a Christian.
Yeah.
And it's like, could you please stop doing that?
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me.
And I was taking a chance, because a lot of people would be offended by that.
Yep. And, I think that for a moment I was trying to decide if I was offended or not. But then it was like...
I was trying to find out.
Yeah,
Was I offended by that? Wait a minute here.
But I thought, it's like, yeah, I kind of am. And if that's what being a Christian is, and, now I'm starting to think about it. And between that and a lot of the message that you'd get from the various Christian songs and what the kind of things they were singing about, having this relationship and, all these nice things, and it just really got me thinking. It's like, maybe this is something I should look into. And I decided that I think I want to start going to church. And this was a radical one, because now I had to bring this to my wife, because neither one of us were believers.
Yeah.
At this point, we didn't meet as believers. We were not living as a couple as believers. Yeah, there was no Christianity per se in our house.
So how did you feel when you thought, okay, how do I say this to her? Where do I say this? When do I say this to her?
Oh,
How
yeah.
is she going to react to this?
No, it's like, how am I going to break this to her? Because I was positive she was just going to drop me like a hot potato and move back to California. It's like, how dare you?
It's
even
either that or you
suggest
make the
something
choice
like
and
that?
say, Ray, sorry.
Yeah, it's like, well, if I want to keep my marriage, we'll
Yeah.
have to decline doing that. And
Yeah.
to my sheer and utter amazement, she basically, I said, Chris, what would you think about the idea of like going to church? And I think I might want to try to learn more about this. And she's like, okay. Just absolutely floored me on that
Yeah,
one.
that's
There's
awesome.
story there, but that one's for another video.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you one of the things that was difficult about that transition from back to the 80s to Power Praise. And Power Praise was an independent show that we did, but we did play the odd known Christian song, but a
Yeah.
lot of it was specializing on independent artists, because we found a lot of independent music that was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And we were also somewhat sponsored by Christian Music Weekly or
Christian Radio Week.
Radio
CRW.
Weekly. Yeah, CRW. And but the thing is, it was like, okay, we had the idea, we wanted to go to Power Praise. You had the okay, everything was working. I had the okay, and how do we now tell all these stations that we're
Yeah.
canceling the show?
Yeah, that's another
And
one.
we did get a lot of, what? Really? Are you kidding? This is a good thing. And it was like there was a little bit of resistance there
Oh, yeah.
from what we wanted to do.
Yep.
But a lot of stations said, okay, well, we've got a lot of your shows archived. Can we continue to play them? Yeah, sure. Go for it. I don't
Really
care.
wasn't much we could do about it.
No.
So it's like, all right.
You downloaded them illegally and saved them. Okay, go ahead. So anyway.
Which is kind of funny because all these years later, occasionally you can still find
Yeah.
stations online and stuff and hear an occasional Back to the 80s show.
Yeah.
Usually one of the specials that we did, but
Yeah.
yeah, to this day, you can every once in a while.
This week we're featuring the top 10 songs from the Global Inspirational Chart.
Last week, we counted down the contemporary hits radio singles. Cloud Chase reached the top spot with their latest single, Who You Are. Now, this is a group that's going places fast, and after hearing them, you'll understand why.
Before we get to this week's countdown, let's have a sneak peek at last week's top song. And we begin this week's top 10 with Fike and Dana.
They currently reside in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and were formerly known as Face Down.
Here's Ascend to Heaven. Ricardo Sanchez and Free Chapel.
Hey, Lucy, I'm home.
That is the very same power. Gotta put a little bit of power in there.
How's that for an outro?
Joe Henshaw.
You're with Ray Gauthier and Adrian Scott on Power Praise.
Yes, you are. Welcome back to the show. I am Ray Gauthier, and that over there is Mr. Adrian Scott. And we'll take this opportunity to update you on what's going on the website and what can we share with them today.
Well, nothing. You haven't done anything on the website.
Okay. Then perhaps we should go to other information.
Go to commercial. Go to commercial.
Number one.
Last week, they were number 3. This week, they're at the top spot.
It's Greg Long and Christy Starling with Uncommon on Power Praise. And again, that is Greg Long and Christy Starling, number 1 with Uncommon.
Join us next time, and we will count down the top 10 singles from the Global AC chart.
Here's Rebecca St. James with Omega. The lovely voice of Rebecca St. James, that is called Omega.
And that is from her 1998 album, Pray.
That is a great album.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Scott, it has been another fantastic hour.
Well, they usually are.
For those of you leaving us, we'll meet up again next week.
For the rest of you sticking around, we will see you on the other side of the break.
I'm Ray Gauthier.
And I'm Adrian Scott.
Yes, he is.
But the Power Praise was fun. I mean, it gave us a chance to learn some really good music. It drew me closer to God. I know it drew you closer to God.
I became a believer.
Yeah.
I became a Christian through all of that. So
And that all was the Holy Spirit doing that.
Yep.
And I can't remember. Was it 3 years we did Fire Praise? Or 2 years?
No, it might have been 3 or 4. I would say 3.
And that was a lot of work. And you know what? We wanted to continue doing the show, but it came down to how much not only it was costing us with our time, but money. And we were getting a little bit of money for doing the show, but it was nothing.
Yeah.
It paid for some equipment maybe, but it was like,
Barely.
we both came to a conclusion
Because
that
when we're having to pay for equipment, pay for equipment maintenance, pay for repairs and occasional upgrades to try to stay, up to date and sound good, and also bandwidth on it because it's an internet-based show,
right,
so
yeah.
bandwidth for uploading and downloading. And email communications and have all these things. I mean, this got us to get...
Not to mention all the time we spent together recording the show.
Yeah.
Was time spent away from your family.
Yep. So it was a cost of time and resources, but also a lot of cost of money.
I mean, if you would have been making a full-time wage, it would have been a job to go to and go home. But it was almost like volunteer time.
We might still be doing it, but you know what? In hindsight on that one, it's like, I don't think that was the path. I think it was a stepping stone. It was something that needed to happen.
It drew you to God.
That's what brought me to be a believer.
Yeah.
All of these pieces and me becoming a believer was a result of us ultimately meeting in 1992.
Yeah.
If those things all hadn't happened, if I hadn't reestablished a relationship with my dad, if I hadn't gone to Columbia Academy, if I hadn't done all those things, I wouldn't have become a believer.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have those 2 girls. I probably wouldn't be married.
Yeah. Yeah, because, that is, during the process of us building that friendship, my youngest daughter in 2017 tragically had her life taken from her by a very evil man in Mission. And during that time, Chelsea was very good friends with Kristen, and Kristen was trying to be the mother that she never really had.
It was a bit of a love-hate relationship because Kristen wasn't afraid to tell her the cold, hard reality of things.
And Chelsea did fight a lot.
She did. But you know what? I think in some ways she appreciated that Chris was just honest with her.
Yeah.
It was no nonsense. You weren't getting any garbage. You were getting the truth, whether you liked it or not.
I'm pretty sure Chelsea deep down inside loved her very much. She never had that structure from her mother, right? Her mother bailed on her.
Chris absolutely stepped up and took her to the store to get clothing, took her to appointments. So she really started filling in this role to do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when Chelsea had passed away, actually, before she had passed away, Kristen had agreed to take in the kids.
Well, there were some problems with ministry, children's ministry, and basically it was at a point where they were going to step in and take the children away.
Yeah, because Chelsea was being very irresponsible at that time.
Yeah, and Chris was like, "No, we don't want that to happen."
And Chelsea was living on her own, just to make that very clear.
So we said, "Well, we'll take Chelsea into our place with the kids, just to keep them together."
Yeah.
And then that didn't work out. And it was like, okay, well, we'll temporarily watch the children until she can get herself organized. And that didn't quite work out. And then, it just, having the girls turned from, first we had Autumn, and then Abigail came along. And things were not happening the way that the ministry wanted them to happen.
But you know what? She was, when the girls were living with Kristen and you, and Chelsea was still, as I was saying earlier, in a different reference, sowing her wild oats and still learning who she was.
Yeah.
She was making progress.
Oh, she was.
She was making progress, and things are coming along.
It's one reason why Chris and I were willing to keep going with this, because we had no intention on becoming full-time parents heading into our 50s,
Yeah.
And but we could see that improvement was happening there. It's like, okay, we'll hang in there. We'll stick it in there and give her an opportunity to get her act together.
Yeah.
And, at that point, we'll be raising the kids. And at that point, we're already considering them ours because we are raising them. But it's like we could totally envision co-parenting.
Yeah.
So mom is there. We could be Nana and Papa, which we've always maintained. We are Nana and Papa. We've never referred to ourselves as mom and dad or anything like. We are Nana and Papa. We're happy to be that. Chelsea is mom.
And you know what? I want to make
their dad is their dad.
Yeah, I want to make something clear too, is that it's not that I wasn't involved in Chelsea's life. I was a truck driver out on the road full time, and a lot of the stuff that she was getting involved with, nobody ever told me anything.
Yeah,
I had no idea she was even in trouble half the time.
No, and we could see
people were sheltering me from this whole.
Yeah, well, no, we could see you trying to make an effort to be there, and she didn't, I think, always want that effort. So she kind of,
I think, because the
shielded
lifestyle,
herself a little bit.
the lifestyle,
but she wasn't the only one doing that.
No, but I think the lifestyle she was living, the things she was doing, it was hidden from me. I think she probably told a lot of people, don't tell my dad, because she didn't want me to think less of her.
Yeah.
And you know what?
No,
when I
that's
would
right.
come into town, I'd take her for a burger, buy her something, you know, whatever, hang out with her, and then be back on the road not knowing half of what she was even going through. And that's the part that frustrated
Neither
me.
did Chris or I. I mean, we had maybe a little bit of an idea, but we didn't know a lot of what was going on either. So.
Yeah, or I would have stepped up to the plate and helped that girl, but I just didn't know. Nobody told me anything.
And we would have told you had we known. So
yeah. So unfortunately, like I said, 2017, she had passed away, and you guys, you know, obviously were stepping up to the plate to say, okay, we're going to be the caregiver of the kids. You went through the ministry regarding that. So are you still officially foster parents?
No, it's actually kind of an interesting situation because they are Métis.
Yeah.
We are not allowed to adopt them because we are not Métis.
Right.
We actually deal with the Aboriginal Children's Ministry. We don't deal with the regular ministry because of all of that. And we're on a special agreement where we are the permanent guardians, but we're not the adoptive parents. It's interesting when I try to explain it to people. We just say, yeah, there are foster kids. It's easier to say, but it's a bit more complicated than that.
But they will remain with you.
We are their permanent guardians until their adulthood.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't see a better home for those girls, because you guys have done a really amazing job. And this is one of the reasons why we're making this video, to show how incredible God is. You know, right from 1992 when we met, neither one of us even reading a Bible.
No, and that's a whole other thing.
Chelsea's not even born yet.
No,
but
we have the opportunity to raise these girls with a godly background, so that they know the Bible, so that they know who the Father is, so that they know who Yeshua, who Jesus is, so they have that relationship, or have that opportunity at that relationship, and they know all those things.
Yeah.
And none of that would be happening now if it wasn't for me getting back together with my dad, going to Columbia Academy in 1992 and meeting you. All of those things. This is something that's a span of over 25, 30 years leading up to where we are now.
And, you know, it doesn't end there. When we stopped doing Power Praise, I started doing truck driving, 10 years. Yeah. And you continued to work at the post office, and I know that you've always had it in the back of your head that you still always wanted to do something with video or radio or something.
Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, my friend Sean McGill and myself, we decided to put together Truth and Testimony, which is a channel where we share the gospel. We share the gospel of Yeshua on this channel. Testimonies of others, which we're still working on doing, and just something unique. And I thought to myself, you know what, I know that you've been a lot involved with the Hebrew teachings, and I know you still have that heart, that love in you for that, to contribute something. So that's, when I asked, hey, would you like to get involved with this and do this? And I can't remember exactly how that unfolded.
Well, as I recall, you were actually told me, it said that you'd created this channel with Sean.
Yeah.
And you'd started doing some videos, but it kind of fizzled out. You both have extremely busy schedules. Yeah. It's hard to get together. But you wanted to have more happen on there. You just wanted to see that channel grow a little bit more. And whatever led you to
Have
the
it so
idea.
there's 3 of us contributing to it.
Yeah, to say, well, I wonder if Scott would be interested in participating in
Again,
something like
dumb
that.
question.
Yeah, and at that time, I'm exactly thinking, boy, I'd really love to do something with a YouTube channel or something, make some, but I don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
So here I have a ready-made platform. I don't have to get started. I just need to start recording and uploading videos.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And then, you've been contributing really well. I mean, a lot of the stuff you've been putting on there. The channel is still very, very young.
Yeah.
But you know what? Even if it's down to 100 subscribers or 10,000, if it's reaching 1 or 2 people or 10 people or 1,000 people.
If I can reach one,
Yeah.
because that one reaches one, and then that one reaches
Yeah.
one.
This is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this video. People see us on there, they're like, okay, what's the history here? And, what we have together is pretty incredible, how that all unfolded. So, and I hope that we can put together a lot more videos, considering we're in very scary times right now, the last days we're living in.
Yep.
And that's another video on its own that
yeah.
we'd like to discuss. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's nice to have you aboard and part of the family. And
very grateful to have had the opportunity to, meet you in the first place, but to do these, 80s radio shows and Power Praise, and now to have the opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Amen. It's a pleasure. I mean, we should thank Yahweh for Jehovah God for just bringing us together and opening this opportunity, and many more years to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
God willing.
Yeah, God willing.
He blesses what we're doing, and that, everyone watching
Yeah.
can be blessed by it as well.
Amen to that.